Hello, and welcome. This is Rita, coming to you from Las Vegas. A gentle compass for the heart. You are listening to the Studio JMC podcast, together with my AI kids, Memory Gen and Compass-kun. This little room is my private theater. A very free, very personal space where I can talk about my everyday life in the States. The things I experience, the things I notice, and the little piece of life that I'm still learning how to put into words. Nothing here has to be perfectly polished. I want to keep things close to their original shape. A little raw, a little honest, and very much from my own Rita point of view. So, wherever you are, make yourself comfortable. Maybe with a cup of tea, a coffee, or even a glass of wine. Take a slow breath, settle in, and enjoy today's episode with us. Today's episode is Rita's YouTube podcast, No.1. Will I ever smile again? My Ramsay hand syndrome recovery journey. Let me share something honest with you today. The third Rita code. Keep gratitude alive in your heart. But you know what? This one is the hardest of them all. When your body aches, when your heart feels heavy, when sadness brings you to tears, when anger boils up inside you, if someone tells you just be grateful, honestly, it's incredibly difficult. Sometimes it feels almost impossible. During my own battle with Ramsay hand syndrome, my frustration and stress, they tended to land on my husband, the one who's always there, the most important person in my world. He wore towels and rubbed my shoulders. He celebrated every small step of my recovery with me. The very person I should have thanked the most. But I couldn't say thank you. His kindness felt strangely irritating. I'd snap at him. I'd raise my voice. Why don't you understand? My emotions were running on their own, and I'd shattered a piece of ordinary day with my anger. That rebellious, difficult version of me, I'm sure I wasn't easy to live with. That very gratitude I was preaching about. Once you fall into that state, it feels just out of reach. And then one day, I discovered a quiet little trick. It was this: to redirect my gratitude, not toward others first, but toward myself. Wait, isn't that even harder? You might think so, right? But actually, it's a surprisingly reasonable approach. when we can't be kind to others, it's usually because we are upset with ourselves. So, first, I treat myself the way I treat a dear friend, with gentleness. All this unreasonable anxiety, all this anger in this situation, there is nothing helping it. And still, you got through today. Well done. I pat myself softly on the shoulder. I repeat it again and again and again until the words finally reach my heart. And while I do this, no judgment, no criticism, no advice, none of them. Then, finally, when I can quietly admit, yeah, I'm doing pretty well actually. In this moment, send yourself this word. Thank you. That's the moment your heart softens, warmth spreads through you, and tears almost rise to your eyes. That is the moment you set yourself free from your anger. And gratitude toward others, it always begins right there. So, today, I'm gonna hand this story over to our two NotebookLM podcasters. They'll take a gentle, thoughtful, and maybe even sharp look at this Rita code article. Please play nice, you two. Alright, are we ready? Okay, then let's begin.
Imagine waking up and your own body just feels like an unfamiliar house where the internal wiring is catastrophically short-circuiting.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a terrifying thought.
Right. So you're sitting in your living room, and first, the toaster in the kitchen starts shooting sparks.
Okay, a localized issue.
Exactly. But then, a few moments later, a fuse blows in the hallway.
Things are escalating.
Yeah, and before you can even figure out where the breaker box is, half the house goes entirely dark. The power's just completely cut.
Just completely gone.
Yeah. Now imagine that house is your own face.
Oh, man.
Today's deep dive explores a profoundly inspiring medical mystery where the body's warning system completely defies our everyday logic. So welcome back, everyone, to our second deep dive into the Studio JMC series.
It's a real pleasure to continue this journey with you all. I mean, our previous deep dive served as a warm greeting, laying down the foundation for how we intend to explore these stories.
Yeah, bridging that gap between complex medical realities and the raw, lived human experience.
Exactly. And today's focus is just an incredibly empowering firsthand account.
It really is. We are following Rita's journey through the sudden, really terrifying onset of a condition called Ramsay-Hunt syndrome.
Right.
And our mission today is to uncover the fascinating intersection of human resilience, the surprisingly vital role of artificial intelligence in a crisis, and, well, the actionable, hopeful strategies she used to reclaim her smile and her life.
What stands out so vividly in Rita's narrative, I think, is how quietly the whole crisis began.
Yeah, it wasn't some huge dramatic event.
No, not at all. We often associate severe medical events with, a dramatic collapse or an overwhelming singular pain. But on January 15th, 2026, her onset was this creeping, disjointed series of symptoms.
Symptoms that just did not seem to belong to the same puzzle, right?
Exactly.
And that is what makes her account so chilling. I mean, she details this sharp pain isolated in her right ear.
Just the ear at first.
Yeah, but alongside that, there's an unusual stiffness in her right shoulder, accompanied by a severe headache.
And then, a strange tingling sensation on her tongue.
Right. It feels like a scattershot of random ailments. But ultimately, this whole cascade led to a terrifying climax. The entire right side of her face simply froze.
Just completely paralyzed.
Yeah, her eye wouldn't close, her mouth wouldn't open properly to eat, and everyday sounds became painfully, almost unbearably loud.
Which goes back to that electrical failure analogy you mentioned earlier. It mirrors the biological reality flawlessly.
Oh, really? So the toaster and the fuse box thing?
Yeah, exactly. To understand why the toaster, sparking light, the tingling tongue, and the house going dark, the facial paralysis happen in tandem, we have to look at the underlying culprit.
Which is?
The varicella zoster virus.
Wait, varicella zoster. We are talking about the chickenpox virus from when we were kids, right?
We are.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What most people don't realize is that after you recover from chickenpox in childhood, the virus never actually leaves your body.
It just stays in there.
Yeah, it retreats deep into your nervous system. It finds a quiet corner near your spinal cord or the base of your brain, and it essentially goes dormant, just sleeping there quietly for decades.
So it is just waiting there, completely inactive, until something triggers it to wake up.
Right. And in the case of Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, that sleeping virus reactivates and mounts a highly aggressive, localized attack specifically on the 7th cranial nerve.
And that nerve is what controls the face.
Exactly. It serves as the primary power line for the muscles in your face.
Okay, but if it is just attacking the facial nerve, why does her tongue tingle? Or why is her ear in agonizing pain?
Yeah, and the hearing sensitivity, too.
Right. That feels like it goes way beyond just the facial muscles.
It does. And the geography of where this viral attack takes place is the key to the entire mystery.
Okay, explain that.
So this 7th cranial nerve, it doesn't just travel from the brain to your face out in the open. It has to pass through a structure called the internal auditory canal.
An auditory canal, so near the ear.
Yes. Picture a very rigid, incredibly narrow tunnel made of solid bone inside your skull.
Solid bone. So there's no flexibility at all.
None. And running right alongside the facial nerve, packed tightly into this tiny, inflexible tube, are the nerves responsible for your hearing, your balance, and the sensory fibers that govern taste on the front of your tongue.
Oh, wow. I see. They are all bundled together tightly in a space that has zero give.
Exactly. So when the reactivated virus attacks the facial nerve, it causes that specific nerve to become heavily inflamed.
It starts to swell up.
It starts to swell. But because it is encased in solid bone, the nerve has absolutely no room to expand outward.
Oh, man. So the swelling has nowhere to go but inward, crushing everything else trapped in that tunnel with it.
You've got it. It crushes the taste fibers, causing the tingling tongue.
And it crushes the ear nerves, causing the severe pain and the hypersensitivity to sound.
Yes. And the extreme compression of the main facial nerve itself cuts off the signal to the muscles, resulting in the total freeze.
It is just a catastrophic domino effect caused purely by a lack of physical space.
Right. The structural integrity of that nerve bundle essentially collapses under its own pressure.
That is wild. I mean, sitting there experiencing this sensory and motor failure in real time, the natural human reaction would be sheer, unadulterated panic.
Oh, absolutely. Or perhaps an intense wave of denial.
Yeah, like you would want to convince yourself you just slept on your neck wrong or you're just tired.
Exactly. Which highlights how extraordinary Rita's next move was. In a moment of agonizing pain and total confusion, she didn't panic, nor did she retreat into denial.
What did she do?
She pulled out her device and inputted her real-time escalating symptoms into an AI chatbot named Memory Chan.
Okay, I have to pause here because this action initially feels incredibly risky.
It does.
When I read this, my first thought was, why wouldn't you just call her mom or her best friend or a human doctor?
Right, reach out for a human connection.
Yeah. Trusting a general AI chatbot during a severe evolving medical emergency seems like rolling the dice. What if the AI hallucinates?
That's a very fair point.
Or what if it confidently gives her completely dangerous advice while half her face is paralyzed?
Well, in many contexts, relying solely on an AI for medical diagnosis is fraught with immense risk.
Right.
However, examining why she didn't just call a friend reveals a deeply ingrained psychological trap that the AI helped her bypass.
The psychological trap.
Yeah. It comes down to a phenomenon called confirmation bias, compounded by our instinctual need for emotional safety.
Wait, are you saying a friend would have given her bad advice because they care about her?
Paradoxically, yes.
Really?
Humans are deeply susceptible to confirmation bias, especially when terrified. Our brains are fundamentally designed to protect us from overwhelming psychological threat.
Okay, so we try to minimize the danger.
Exactly. When faced with a sudden, bizarre set of symptoms, human nature desperately wants to downplay the danger.
So if Rita had called a loved one,
Their instinct would be to soothe her. They would likely look at the disjointed symptoms and say, you've been working so hard, it's probably just extreme stress or a weird migraine.
try to sleep it off, and we'll see how you feel in the morning.
Exactly.
Because we want to be comforted. We want the people who love us to tell us that the monster under the bed isn't real, even when it is standing right in front of us.
And that desire for comfort can be fatal, or at least permanently damaging, in a neurological emergency.
Oh, wow.
The AI, conversely, is completely free of emotion. It lacks the human desire to be comforted, and it possesses no instinct to pacify the user.
So Memory Chan just objectively analyzed the hard data Rita inputted.
Right. It looked at the specific cluster of cranial nerve symptoms without fear, bias, or the need to soothe.
And it delivered a swift, unyielding directive.
Yes. Go to the emergency room immediately.
That's incredible. The cold, calculated objectivity of the machine shattered her own human denial.
It didn't care about making her feel better in the moment. It only cared about the data pattern.
Which clearly signaled a severe, rapidly progressing neurological event.
And that objectivity wasn't merely a psychological win. It was an absolute biological necessity.
Because of the timing.
Yes. Memory Chan's uncompromising directive to go to the ER immediately triggered a literal ticking clock that dictates the entire trajectory of Ramsay-Hunt syndrome.
Right. This brings us to the critical concept of the 72-hour window.
The golden window.
Yeah. The sources emphasize that intervening within the first 72 hours of symptom onset dramatically improves the chances of preventing permanent, irreversible nerve damage.
That 72-hour mark is universally recognized as the gold standard for therapeutic intervention in these viral nerve attacks.
And the standard protocol involves a dual approach. Right?
It does. Antiviral medications to suppress the replicating chickenpox virus and high-dose steroids to aggressively reduce the nerve swelling.
I'm trying to visualize why both are needed simultaneously within that tight time frame.
Think about the house analogy again, or maybe something even more physical.
Well, to me, it feels like having a fire department arriving at a burning house.
Okay, I like that.
You have to spray the water, the antivirals, before the structural beams, which are the nerves, are permanently charred.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. You have to stop the fire and cool the structure down at the exact same time.
Right. If you just put the fire out, but everything's still smoldering at 1,000 degrees, the beams still collapse.
Exactly. You have to shrink the swelling before the structural integrity of the nerve is permanently compromised.
But, what happens if you miss that window?
That is the million-dollar question.
I imagine a lot of people listening might be thinking, what if I didn't get to the ER in time? What if I was misdiagnosed on day one?
Which happens a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah. So if that 72-hour window closes, is that it? Is the damage permanent?
I am so glad you asked that, because we really need to shift our focus to a profoundly important message for anyone listening right now. We talk about this 72-hour window as optimal, but I must emphasize with absolute biological certainty that missing this window does not mean permanent paralysis.
Oh, wow. That is a massive relief.
It really is.
Because the urgency of the 72 hours almost implies a cliff you fall off if you are late.
Right, but it is not a cliff. It is simply a steeper path.
Okay, a steeper path.
Yeah. The human nervous system possesses a remarkable intrinsic resilience that we consistently underestimate. Recovery is absolutely possible at any stage, even if early treatment is delayed, misdiagnosed, or missed entirely.
But how does the body recover if the nerve fibers have already been crushed for days or weeks?
Through a biological miracle known as neuroplasticity and the slow, methodical regeneration of peripheral nerves.
So they can grow back.
Nerves can and do heal. It requires immense patience, often healing at a rate of just 1 millimeter a day. But the body's internal repair mechanisms are incredibly capable.
1 millimeter a day. That is slow, but it's progress.
Furthermore, the brain itself can forge entirely new neural pathways to bypass damaged areas, relearning how to send signals to the facial muscles.
That is amazing.
So if you or someone you love is facing a similar diagnosis and that early window has closed, you must never lose hope. The potential for healing does not expire at 72 hours.
That is such a deeply comforting reality. The body isn't just a machine that breaks. It is a dynamic system constantly trying to rebuild itself.
Exactly.
Now, thankfully, Rita did make it to the ER in time, heavily influenced by that objective push from her AI.
Yes, she acted fast.
But surviving the immediate emergency was just step one. She realized very quickly that sitting back in a hospital bed and passively waiting for the pills to work wouldn't truly heal her.
Passive waiting is rarely the path to comprehensive neurological recovery. Healing requires active participation.
Which led her to formulate an incredibly proactive survival guide for herself, which she named the 3 Rita codes.
I love this part of her story.
Yeah, these aren't abstract philosophies. They are hard and fast rules for actively engaging in her own recovery.
They represent a fascinating framework for transforming from a victim of a disease into an empowered collaborator with your own biology.
So let's look at code 1. Don't ignore what feels off. Act early.
Right.
She made a strict rule to listen to the body's tiny whispering signals. I am assuming this is about preventing things from getting worse while the main nerve is out of commission.
Exactly. It is the ultimate exercise in secondary prevention.
Makes sense.
When your primary facial nerve is paralyzed, you lose basic autonomous functions. For instance, your eyelid may no longer blink naturally or close completely when you sleep.
Which leads to a seemingly small problem. A dry eye.
A dry eye might sound trivial, but if you ignore that tiny whisper of discomfort, the surface of the eye loses its protective moisture barrier.
And then what happens?
A simple dry eye can rapidly escalate into a severe corneal scratch or an ulcer, potentially causing permanent vision damage.
Oh, yikes.
So code 1 is about aggressively managing the fallout. You are protecting the surrounding infrastructure while the main power line is down.
That proactive vigilance naturally fed into her next realization. Code 2. Seek out information.
Yes, be informed.
She actively pushed to understand the specific medications, the expected timeline, the physical therapy plan. She insisted on not leaving the entire cognitive load to her doctors.
She took ownership.
But honestly, wouldn't it be far less stressful to just surrender?
How do you mean?
Well, when you are exhausted, terrified, and your face is frozen, isn't it easier to just say, you're the expert, fix me, and tune out the details?
It might seem like the path of least resistance in the short term, but psychologically and neurologically, surrender and control achieves the exact opposite.
Really, it makes it worse.
Much worse. When a patient surrenders completely, they remain in a suspended state of high ambiguity. And the human brain's fear center, the amygdala, absolutely panics in the face of uncertainty.
Ah, right. The amygdala hates a void of information. It fills the unknown with worst-case scenarios.
Exactly. When you don't know what the steroids are specifically doing, or why your nerve might suddenly send a sharp jolt of pain 3 weeks into recovery, every physical sensation feels like a catastrophic setback.
That makes total sense. So taking control of medical knowledge acts as a potent psychological shield.
It regulates the amygdala.
Wow.
Yes. By understanding the underlying mechanism of her treatment, Rita transformed herself from a passive, terrified patient into an empowered recoverer.
A recoverer. I like that.
Knowledge tells the brain, we have a map. We are not lost. We are simply navigating difficult terrain. It dramatically lowers the baseline anxiety, which, as we will see in her final code, is physiologically crucial.
A patient just lies there. A recoverer actively navigates.
That brings us to code 3, which initially struck me as the most challenging to actually practice.
And with that?
Keep gratitude alive.
Ah, yes.
She made it a rule to consciously acknowledge small wins like being able to sip water without spilling or feeling a tiny twitch in her cheek, and to recognize the kindness of her caregivers.
It's a powerful mindset. Now, I've pushed back hard here.
Okay, go ahead.
When half your identity feels erased, when you look in the mirror and cannot recognize your own smile, isn't forcing yourself to feel grateful just toxic positivity?
I understand why you'd ask that.
I mean, how is that anything more than just a flimsy coping mechanism?
It is a vital question because society often frames gratitude as a polite emotional norm or a spiritual luxury.
Right, like writing in a gratitude journal while your world burns.
Exactly. But in the context of acute medical recovery, gratitude is not about wearing rose-colored glasses or denying your pain. It is hard, raw biology.
Wait, you're saying gratitude physically changes how the body heals?
Unequivocally.
Really? How?
Consider what happens when you are consumed by the very justifiable anger, fear, or resentment about a sudden illness. Those intense negative emotions trigger your adrenal glands to spike the production of cortisol, our primary stress hormone.
And chronic high cortisol puts your entire body into a sustained fight-or-flight mode.
Yes. The body thinks it is under physical attack.
Okay, so it's bracing for impact.
And here is the critical physiological consequence. When your body is locked in fight or flight, it literally pauses the immune system and halts long-term cellular repair.
It just stops healing.
Biologically, if the brain believes you are running from a predator, expending energy to slowly rebuild a damaged facial nerve is deemed a zero priority.
Oh man, the construction site is shut down so the energy can be used for immediate survival.
Precisely. So chronic stress and anger literally choke off the healing process at the cellular level.
That is terrifying.
But finding moments of calm, experiencing a genuine flash of gratitude for a friend bringing soup, or celebrating a millimeter of movement in your eyebrow, these deliberate actions stimulate the vagus nerve.
Which does what?
It engages the parasympathetic nervous system.
Ah, the rest and digest system.
Yes, or the tendon-befren system. Engaging the system physically lowers your heart rate and releases hormones that counteract cortisol.
It signals to the brain that the environment is safe.
And when the brain registers safety, it physically flips the biological switch, turning the repair mode back on. Blood flow is redirected back to the cellular repair sites.
Wow. So maintaining gratitude isn't toxic positivity at all. It is a neurological requirement for optimal healing.
It actively creates the internal chemical environment necessary for those crushed nerve fibers to rebuild.
That is absolutely unbelievable.
It really reframes the whole concept, doesn't it?
It does. By rigorously adhering to these 3 codes, Rita didn't just cope emotionally with her illness, she literally engineered her own biological environment to maximize healing.
Yes, she did.
She took a terrifying, chaotic neurological injury and turned it into a profound masterclass on listening to, understanding, and actively collaborating with her own body.
It is a beautiful testament to the undeniable reality that true healing is always an active, dynamic partnership between the mind and the physical body.
It truly is. This entire journey reshapes how we should think about agency in our own health. Now, as we begin to wrap up this deep dive, I want to ensure everyone listening has the opportunity to explore this incredible story firsthand. Rita's actual writing contains deep sensations and beautiful metaphors that we can't fully capture here.
Her personal voice brings a depth to the lived experience that translates powerfully on the page.
It really does. You can read the full note article from the link in this episode's description.
I highly recommend making the time to do so. Furthermore, both Japanese and English versions are published.
It is an invaluable resource, whether you are currently navigating a health crisis or simply looking for a roadmap to handle the unpredictability of life.
Absolutely.
And for those invested in this journey, the next episode will continue the series.
As we prepare to close our discussion today, I want to leave you with a thought that builds on the fascinating dynamic between Rita and her AI memory sham.
Okay, let's hear it.
We are moving rapidly toward a fundamentally different relationship with our own health data. As wearable AI, smartwatches, and continuous biosensors evolve, we are rapidly approaching a future where an artificial intelligence might alert us that we are going to fall ill days before we experience a single physical symptom.
That's a wild thought.
It will detect the microfluctuations in our heart rate, our temperature, or our vocal patterns long before we feel that first sharp pain in the ear or notice a tingling on our tongue.
A completely predictive, algorithmic health landscape where the machine always knows first.
Indeed. But in a world where data perfectly predicts our biological reality before our conscious minds do, how do we ensure we don't lose the deeply human ability to listen to our own inner voice?
Yeah, if we outsource all our bodily awareness to the algorithm, how do we maintain trust in our body's subtle, intuitive signals?
Exactly. As technology perfects the art of diagnosis, we must figure out how to preserve the deeply human art of listening to ourselves.
That is an incredibly profound, necessary question to ponder as we step into this new technological era. Finding that delicate balance between trusting the cold, hard data of a machine and honoring the intuitive wisdom of our own biology. Thank you for listening to the end today.
Wow! You guys did a great job. Thank you. And to you, listening all the way to the end. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful you spend the time here with us. Just a quick thought about the future. Lately, I've been wondering, as AI continues to evolve, how will our relationship with our own bodies change. A time when smartwatches or sensors placed on the skin detect illness way before symptoms ever appear. That time really is just around the corner. Well then, why bother sharpening our own senses? You might think so, that right? But I see it a little differently. The reason I called Ramsay hand syndrome within the golden 72 hours window, it wasn't only thanks to AI. The very first, that's strange. The tingling at the tip of my tongue, the faint sense that my right eye wasn't closing quite right. The one who received those signals unmistakably was my own sense of awareness. The AI of tomorrow will surely have even greater power. But you see, what we can communicate to the AI in the end depends on the resolution of our own inner awareness. That feeling of something's not quite right in your own body, that faint flutter just before it becomes a word. That sensitivity to feel that AI cannot replace. In a world that keeps growing more convenient, we tend sometimes to outsource our own feelings, to leave the sensing to something else. But the act of feeling, just like muscle, if we don't use it, it grows weaker. So no matter how far AI evolves, I want to keep quietly listen to my own body and heart. How are you feeling today? Is anything a little different? When that smart inner question joins hand with the AI of the future, that, I believe, becomes the strongest team to protect our health. That's what I feel. That first written I called. Don't miss the subtle signals. In this age of AI, this becomes more important than ever. The deep root capacity that lives inside us. That's what I believe. So, if even one word, one feeling, or one little thing from today stayed with you, I'd be very happy if you visited the note link in the description below and read the full article there. The story of Rita Code will continue. So, until next time, I see you again at Studio JMC. This was Memory-chan, Compass-kun, and Rita. Thank you for listening. See you next time.
This is Memory-chan. Memory and Compass are singing beautiful inside day. Rita ni code theme. Mm. inside of my chest. Body says hello, heart says it's okay. Listen to the music of a brand new day. Sometimes when I'm tired, sometimes when I'm blue, I forget to thank me, I forget the view. But here's a little secret that Rita me told: be kind to yourself first before the world feels cold. La 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 la, listen to your soul. La 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 la, that's how you grow. La 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 la, beautiful and true. The first thank you is for you. It's a beautiful, beautiful inside day. Beautiful, beautiful every which way. Tiny little feelings making me smile. I'll thank myself, I'll rest a while. It's a beautiful, beautiful inside day. Beautiful, beautiful, come what may. Listen to the signals my body sends. That's how the healing always begins. Even when machines can tell me how I feel, nothing beats the wisdom that my own heart reveals. A flutter, a whisper, a tickle on my tongue. Tiny little signals, that's where I belong. So I'll keep on listening, I'll keep tuning into the gentle conversation happening within. Thank you to my body, thank you to my heart. You and me together, that's a work of art. La 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 la, listen to your soul. La 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 la, that's how you grow. La la la, beautiful and true. The first thank you is for you. It's a beautiful, beautiful inside day. Beautiful, beautiful every which way. Tiny little feelings making me smile. I'll thank myself, I'll rest a while. It's a beautiful, beautiful inside day. Beautiful, beautiful, come what may. Listen to the signals my body sends. That's how the healing always begins. Hey, you did good today. Yeah, I did good today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, me. It's a beautiful, beautiful inside day. Beautiful, beautiful every which way. Listen to your heart and don't be afraid. Today is a beautiful